Hit me.
From Studio A in Arcata, behind the redwood curtain, it's time for...
Succotash.
Succotash Chats, the original Comedy Soundcast Soundcast featuring interviews from Comedy
Soundcasts.
Comedians, comedian soundcasters, and other showbiz folk. And here's your host from up the coast, practically unknown outside of Comedy Soundcast Soundcasting, Tyson Sainer.
Saluton, thank you for joining me on this Chats episode of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast. My guest for this episode is someone I've wanted to have on since I began hosting duties, and that someone is none other than Hunter Block, my co-host on Antisocial Show, a soundcast that I've been recording with him for nearly 2 years now. I've also got a double dose of Raging Moderate Will Durst's Burst of Durst segments, and a Henderson's Pants ad. Let's begin, shall we? Before I get into my interview with Hunter, I'd like to play a clip from a soundcast that has reached its 10th year. That soundcast is called Illusionoid, and it should sound familiar to longtime listeners of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast, as we have been featuring clips of Illusionoid for many years. In fact, previous host, current executive producer Marc Hershon, interviewed the entire cast of Illusionoid, which is comprised of Paul Bates, Lee Smart, and Nug Nargang, back in January of 2013 on Epi173, called Illusionoidin for those looking for a fun listen, or listening for a fun time. Before I play the clip, here's a description of their program on Illusionoid's home site. And both this description and clip were provided by executive producer Marc Hershon. A bi-weekly improvised comedy podcast in the style of old-time radio shows like Inner Sanctum or X-1, Illusionoid is performed by Paul Bates, CTV's Dan for Mayor, Second City, Lee Smart, Comedy Network's Fifth Quadrant in Second City, and Nug Nargang, Dark Rising, Summer Strikes Back, Sci-Fi Scare Tactics. In the distant future, humanity has its last stand against the tyrant computer Illusionoid. A lone survivor sends messages backwards through time in hopes that he can provide a warning of the danger to come. Will you heed this warning? Open your ears and hone your senses, for without immediate action, none can escape the future that is Illusionoid. I've listened to several episodes of this show, and I enjoy it quite a bit. This clip is from episode 2 of this newest season, The Undersea Pawns. It dropped on June 27, 2018.
Not calm seas.
Oh, it's pretty rough today. Pretty rough.
Indeed.
You know, we should probably head for shore before it gets much darker than this. We may not find ourselves in a safe haven when the storm rolls in.
Sandy, do you really think the captain will let us turn back?
Do I think he'll let us turn back? I mean, he's a seafaring man who knows the dangers of being on the sea. I think he will. He'll hear reason. He'll turn back.
I don't know if he'll hear reason anymore. He's mad and near obsessed with his latest mission.
It's true. I've seen that look in his eye, that dangerous glint in his eye when he talks about it. When he talks about achieving that scepter. He wants that scepter that he had those many years ago that went overboard in that storm that was much like the one that's brewing tonight.
I don't know why we even do it, Sandy. We're prawn fishermen, and our captain has an unhealthy obsession with his scepter collection.
It is true, Elroy. He does. He's missing the one. You've been in his cabin, right? He's called you in there late at night, hasn't he?
Scepters everywhere.
Everywhere.
In the center, behind his desk, a throne made of scepters.
It's through the wall, top to bottom, covered in scepters.
And there in the middle, one empty, long, thin space.
With the label beneath it that reads, The Scepter of Eternity.
I mean, why? Why doesn't he have enough scepters?
I don't know. It's like a scepter obsession. A scepter session.
Yeah.
Yeah?
An obsession.
An obsessioner. An obsessioner. Yeah.
Scepters.
Oh, here he comes. He's walking along. There's a swabbing, pulling the net,
Crawling.
How's it going? Have we caught any prawn?
Oh, let me just check the net here. Yep. Oh, we got looks like a solid dozen prawns.
Excellent. And how's the swabbing?
The swabbing's going really great. I think I've gotten right down to the bare wood here.
Fantastic. Just to let you know, the storm's real bad and we should be heading back. But I've dropped anchor because I know the scepter is here.
How do you know that? Do you have like one of those fish finders, except it's for scepters?
When you're as experienced with scepters as I am, you gotta feel for these kind of things.
It's not like I was trying to question you, sir.
No, I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
There's a storm just like this where I last saw the Scepter of Eternity, and it was in a spot just like this, on the water in a storm, when I lost that scepter, and I'm about to find it again. I know it's here.
So, Captain, we're going purely on gut here? Is that what's happening?
It's a feeling I have. I have a connection to these scepters, and I know it's here.
Gut feeling.
Yeah, I'm going to call it. Yeah, sure, if you want to give it a name, you can call it a gut feeling. I've dropped anchor, and I've put a rowboat on the side.
I just want to...
The three of us are getting in that boat, and we're going to find this scepter.
The storm is teetering on
It's
Captain's
nothing!
There's white caps out there that are bigger than any white cap I've ever seen.
Oh, well, I've seen worse. And you're both coming with me.
There's only the three of us aboard.
Yes.
The good ship Lollipop.
That's right.
And
it is a good ship.
It's a great ship.
It's a good ship.
I'm not impugning the quality of the ship we're on.
You don't dare.
I know, I'm not. I've only brought it up because it's such a good ship. Shouldn't one of us stay behind, say me?
No.
Sandy,
no,
first
it's
mate?
fine. It's protected by scepter magic.
Scepter magic.
That's right. Every scepter has a little bit of magic in it. Why do you think I've lined the walls of my cabin with the scepters? I'm protected by magic.
Wow. What are you seeking protection from, Captain?
Stuff, life, injustice.
Oh, feelings.
Yeah, well, that's always a protection for me. Hop in the rowboat, boys. I'm commanding you to hop into the rowboat.
One last pitch.
All right, I'm listening.
Let's hear him out, sir. Let's hear him out. This is a triocracy. Let's hear him
Please,
out.
the storm is getting worse.
I am your faithful navigator.
Yeah, sure.
Here's my pitch.
All right, let's hear it. I'm wide open.
I bust out the sextant, open up the map, mark our spots navigationally here on the water.
Here.
We go home, wait for the storm to ride out.
Here.
Come exactly back where we were before, and into the rowboat we go.
This is the first I've felt the scepter in a long time. You think I'm giving up now just because of a little rain and two boys that don't want to come with me?
Can we vote? Can we take a vote on it?
Yes, the captain has 3 votes.
Whoa.
If you like Illusionoid and you want to show them some love, why not visit their Facebook page and like their Facebook page, which is at facebook.com. And Illusionoid is spelled ILLUSIONOID. You can contact them at Gmail at illusionoidpod, P-O-D, at gmail.com. The show is on Twitter at illusionoidpod. Paul Bates is BatesBot9000, that's BATESBOT 9000. Lee Smart is Krypton's Last Son, KRYPTONSLASTSON. Nugnargang is at Nugnargang, NUGNAHRGANG. And Illusionoid uses music from Platinum Loops, which is www.platinumloops.com. Also, if you'd like to see executive producer Marc Hershon's article on Vulture's This Week in Comedy podcasts, you can click the link in the description of this episode wherever you might be reading this instead of hearing it. And now it's time for our first Burst of Durst. This one is from June 22nd of 2018, and it's called Zero Tolerance, in which our intrepid correspondent gets almost kind of semi-serious.
Hey guys, Will Durst here with a few choice words about how we got to be a country that forcibly separates kids from their parents. Easy to figure out. We got trumped. The 45th president has dragged us down to his level, and every time you think we've reached a new low, he digs another sub-basement. And now it's normal. We become anesthetized, built up a tolerance. The very phrase President Donald Trump should be surreal. It's a Saturday Night Live skit. One of those not very funny Saturday Night Live skits they slide on after the second appearance of this week's band. But now, Mr. Big Tough Guy decides to institute zero tolerance for immigrant families, and he's taken down the entire Republican Party with him. But these enablers are fine. They've already acquiesced to being anti-logic and anti-environment and anti-democracy and anti-fidelity. Attorney General Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III actually used the Bible to justify its policy separating immigrant parents from their children, using the exact same passage the South cited to defend slavery. But other administration officials utilized a whole bevy of excuses. The Democrats are responsible. We're just upholding the law. Using kids as hostages is not our policy. The courts made us do it. The Torah says it's okay. Obama did it. The vast majority are drug mules. They're just tiny future rapists. Crooked Hillary is to blame. Bill Clinton had an affair. 9/11 was an inside job. Putin should be emperor of the world. What kids? Finally, the president signed an executive order that changed the policy he formerly claimed wasn't a policy and couldn't be changed. Then the First Lady visits one of the detention centers while wearing a $39 jacket that had the words, "I don't really care, do you?" painted on the back. Wow, at least she didn't offer the kids cake. For Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast, I'm Will Durst.
Thank you, Mr. Durst. We'll be hearing another burst of Durst later in the program, but now the moment we've all been waiting for. My interview with my friend and co-host of Antisocial Show, Hunter Block. So, Hunter Block, welcome to Succotash.
You know, actually, it feels great to be here, if I may say.
Thank you for...
Yeah, I always wanted to be on Succotash. It's ever since I started listening to Succotash, I'm like, God, when can I come on? And that's a legitimate thing. I always wanted to be on the show. I've always been a major fan of Succotash, and I got my Succotash T-shirt, which is pretty cool. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There is a picture of you in that T-shirt on one of the episode
yes.
descriptions. I'm not sure which one it is. Let me check that real quick here. Episode 165, Snipping Like a Maniac. Has you in the main thing. It says, friend of Succotash, Hunter Block sports his new tee, and it looks like you're standing next to well, I'm sure it's supposed to look like a mantelpiece, but it looks kind of like a desk with some candles on, and then it looks like a painting, perhaps, above that?
Yeah, let me bring up I have the picture on Instagram. Let me pull it up real quick so I can look at okay, so basically what that is, it's a picture. And you're right. It's a kind of like a weird looking candle holder, and
cool. What
I'm leaning against is a bookshelf, like a it's supposed to be like an antique looking bookshelf.
Ah, okay, nice. Well, it is. It's a nice color. Everything there in the room.
Thank you.
Very nice shades of brown and yellow. What is that painting or picture what is that image that is above it?
I think that's a person.
It looks kind of like Jack Burton. Kind of.
It might be. I mean,
or perhaps
this picture. This picture was taken downstairs in my living room, so I would actually have to go down there and look at the painting itself, because I haven't looked at that painting in quite some time.
So it is in fact a painting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I was wondering because it looks like it could be a photograph, but then the more I stare at it, there's no definition in the face, and I don't think the pixel depth is bad because it looks like a high resolution photograph. Anyway, so that's you on there because of now. How did you end up in that picture? Actually. Because I don't actually pick the images for the show. Marc does. So was it an exchange of T-shirts or something? Or was it because you had the T-shirt? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, it was an exchange.
Sorry, what's the story, basically? Sorry.
So basically, I wanted to get my hands on a Succotash T-shirt that I can rock it around and wear it, because I love Succotash, as I said. So me and Marc had decided to do a T-shirt for a T-shirt. So I gave him an Antisocial Show shirt, and he gave me a Succotash shirt. And did he ask me for a picture, or did I just do that on my own? I forget now because that was months ago. But either way, that's how that came about.
It all kind of blurs together after a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Everything, like time kind of like blurs. One day is kind of like the same, different days are kind of like the same day, like a Monday and a Tuesday are kind of like together,
It collapses a bit.
It does.
It's like Synecdoche, New York. So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How were you introduced to the podcast or the soundcast, as we call it here on Succotash? How were you introduced to it as a form of entertainment?
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is going back to 2011, 2012 when I met you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at that point in time, I had no idea that soundcasting or podcasting even existed in those days.
Really?
Like, had no knowledge of it.
Oh.
Yeah, really, because I mean, I don't know if it was like highly popular back then as it is now. Like now, you can walk up to basically anyone on the street and say, "Hey, man, like, do you know what a podcast is?" And usually, I mean, nine out of 10 people will say, "Yeah, I know what a podcast is," and they either listen to it or they don't listen to a podcast. But you always get that 1% that doesn't even know what a podcast is. You know,
I mean, I don't want to take issue with your numbers, but I'd say it's a higher percentage of people that don't know what a podcast is still, but certainly much more than they did before. You're right. There was a lot of blank stares when you said podcast. People didn't know what that was just 6 years ago.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was trying to be optimistic.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm thinking about it. I'm going, wow, gosh, yeah. You know me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so back then I had no idea what a soundcast even was. I obviously I never listened to a whole lot of talk radio either.
Okay.
Just music when I was driving around. And then you and I struck up a conversation one day, and that's when you introduced me to combat radio, and I heard my first combat radio episode. And it was on YouTube, and it was you discussing Plan 9. And I'm like, this is some really cool shit, if I can say that word on the show.
Sure. Yes.
So I was like, this is really cool shit. And I really got into it. And then that's when you also introduced me to the concept of podcasting, which I've never heard before. And to me, it was like a really awesome thing because as I started listening to, more and more of it or learning about it, I realized that basically anybody can do a podcast. It wasn't like there were gatekeepers, as Kevin Smith would say, and there was no one telling you that you couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. So and to me, it was entertaining because I also found out that you can find a soundcast for virtually anything. Like anything that piques your interest, there's basically a soundcast for it. Mm-hmm. So that's when I really got into that's when you introduced me to the breaks and to Succotash and to Strange Times, and I started listening to these shows a lot. And I was even on Strange Times a few times.
Oh yes,
no pun intended there. Mm-hmm. So the more and even like back in those days, and we're talking like quite a few years before, in between when I was on my first time on combat radio, if you remember. So there was quite a few years between the time I was on combat radio and Strange Times.
Oh,
and yeah. And even this is only going back. I think the last time I was on Strange Times was in like 2016, and we weren't even doing Antisocial Show at that particular time. So to me, it was still like listening to it was pretty cool, but like just being on being on a podcast or soundcast was still kind of like a bit nerve wracking for me in those days.
So are you saying you haven't been on a Strange Times episode since 2016? Do you think?
Correct.
Wow. I kind of thought you'd been on sooner than that. Wow. How time flies. So speaking to that, so your first appearance on Combat Radio was October 26th, 2012.
Correct.
In the Halloween season in a show called Angry Jack-o'-lanterns of Doom.
Yes.
Also in the room were Ashley Palmer of Paranormal Activity, the film series. Tom Vitorino, who is going to become a regular co-star or co-host of Ethan Dettenmeyer's For who of course is the host of the show. I should mention his name. But I was speaking of guests first. Peter Shinkota, who I think was just finishing up on his run on Falling Skies.
Fallen Skies, yep.
With another Combat Radio regular, Doug Jones. Bodywork Man, Doug Jones. Bodywork, yep. Extraordinaire Man Jones. That's a long name that I added a bunch of stuff to. But I don't think it's actually called Bodywork. It's called something though, because he does full body makeups and has for a very long time.
That's pretty cool.
He had a run as Mac Tonight, you might recall, the Man in the Moon in the McDonald's commercials with the giant crescent shaped moon head guy playing at the piano. That was Doug Jones in that.
Yes.
Several Matt Tonight commercials. So not just one, like many. Anyway, but he wasn't there. And then I actually was on toward the end. So in a way, that episode was kind of like the first Antisocial show where we weren't actually on it together.
Yeah, right. But we kind of like missed each other, but because I was on, I think, and then I jumped off, and then you jumped on after. Is that right?
More or less, yeah. We talked about the Wolfman movies. I had just seen a few movies for Halloween, and I had seen the original Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr. and Claude Rains, and then I had also watched the Joe Johnston remake with Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins, and I also had seen Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which also had Lon Chaney Jr. as the character that he played in the original Wolfman, Larry Talbot. So it was like Larry Talbot played kind of for laughs, even though he was pretty serious in it. And it's an Abbott and Costello movie. So that was all in that one October. So then just almost 4 years to the day. It's actually about 6 days later would be. 8 days later would be the 26th of October. But so on October 18th, 2016, the first episode of Antisocial Show debuted.
Yes,
which is that show that we do together, and it is means that it's over 50 episodes now, over 50 episodes of your own soundcast, basically one that you're on and that you contribute to regularly. As you would say, you co-host. You are the other half of this show. You are, some would say, the personality of the show, and. Thank you. You're welcome. No, thank you. God, I mean,
you're welcome.
It's just my boring ass for an hour and nobody would listen. So
actually, that's not true, dude. Because you have like I noticed that when you do our show, right? When you do Antisocial Show, okay, and on either show you're not boring, but you're able to carry your own, I think. When you're doing Succotash, you know what I mean? So like, I've noticed that like me personally, I think I would be the boring one if it was just me running solo, because I need that like interaction. If I was just like sitting by myself and just be like talking, I don't think I'd have a single idea of what it is I'd be talking about. I would actually have to probably script that and rehearse that before I actually even attempted to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we could try as an experiment in a bit here. I could try an experiment for generating a conversation out of nothing. But it's thank you for saying that. I appreciate what you're saying.
You're welcome.
I'm attempting to ignore the compliment because, as you know, I am uncomfortable with them. But I shouldn't. I should acknowledge it and thank you for it because it is very kind of you to say nice things.
Only the truth, brother. Only the truth.
So now you are credited in the episode of Combat Radio. You're credited as a relative of Captain Kidd.
Yes.
I'm almost positive we've talked about this before, but I don't know if we've talked about it on one of the soundcasts that we've done already or not. But yeah, it says, so here's the full description of that episode, if you'd like to.
Okay.
Angry Jack-o'-lanterns of Doom. Combat Radio's 31 Days of Halloween continues with Ashley Palmer, Peter Shinkoda, Tom Vitorino, also Hunter Block. And okay, so this is the problem. I didn't read the parts where it says the credits. And it's funny because I've already said these credits already, so I'll try to go over as quickly as possible. It's Ashley Palmer, and then in parentheses, Paranormal Activity. Peter Shinkoda, Falling Skies, Mortal Kombat, War, etc. Tom Vitorino, Manager of the Cult, The Doors, Big Country, etc. Also, Hunter Block, a relative of Captain Kidd. calls in from the haunted Rose Hill Cemetery. And then Tyson Sainer calls in with this week's Halloween movie picks from Universal Monster Machine. Oh, and apparently somebody, Marcus Lindsay was there at Paranormal EXP, the Travel Channel, where he investigated haunted Alcatraz. And they talk about the Amityville horror and stuff like that. And more stuff and junk and more stuff. But yes, so what is the behind you? Do you mind talking about the relation to Captain Kidd?
Sure. He supposedly was my great-great-great-grandfather.
Wow.
Few greats.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I discovered this at a barbecue because my grandfather was doing our family tree. So we were talking about the family and stuff. And he's like, "Hey, did you know who we're related to?" And I'm like, "Wow, we're related to that guy." He's like, "Yep." And I'm like, "That's pretty cool."
Yeah, it is pretty. So is that on your father's side or on your mother's side?
Mother's side. Yep.
So yeah, apparently there's quite a bit of history associated with this one. There are apparently quite a few people that believe he was wrongfully executed for piracy.
Yes, he was. He was actually a pirateer, not a pirate.
I think it's a privateer.
Privateer. Privateer. No, you're right. Privateer.
Yeah. Although
he worked for the British. He worked for the king basically in those days, getting rid of pirates or turning in pirates or help capturing pirates.
Wow.
And in the end, they just basically hung him.
So they turned on him, apparently.
Yeah, basically.
Wow. Well, that's no good.
That was basically like his reward for helping to clean up the the ocean, I guess.
Wow. So let's see. It says here. Okay, so all right. It says Kidd had 2 lawyers to assist in his defense. He was shocked to learn. This is from Wikipedia, by the way. He was shocked to learn at his trial that he was charged with murder. He was found guilty on all charges. It's murder and 5 counts of piracy and sentenced to death. Sorry about that.
Wouldn't surprise me.
He was hanged 2 times. On the first attempt, the hangman's rope broke and Kidd survived. Although some in the crowd called for Kidd's release, claiming the breaking of the rope was a sign from God, Kidd was hanged again minutes later, this time successfully. Oh, and then it says, some details, which I'm sorry to go into details because it's, when it's one's relative, you never know how sensitive they're going to be about stuff like this. It says his body was gibbeted over the River Thames at Tilbury Point as a warning to future would-be pirates for 3 years.
Wow.
3 years.
I think they did used to do that back in those days to kind of it was a deterrent against, piracy basically. Like, hey, if you roll into our port and try to, commit piracy, this is what's going to happen to you. So this is like your warning basically. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. For 3 years. 3 years.
That is insane. Like that is insane.
Yeah,
wow.
It's just, you'd imagine that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's it's weird and bizarre and kind of morbid, really. Here, we're going to put this guy on display for 3 years.
It seems like a long time to be. What's really messed up about that is that there are people who just got used to it. They're just like, oh, that's there. It's like, oh, that's not going anywhere. Oh, that's still there. And then how long do you suppose do you think it took? It's less than 3 years now that Trump's been in office. Do you suppose it was now that people are just kind of getting used to that on some level, which is because so much time has gone by? Or do you think it's one of those situations where it's like, what? It's been 3 years? We should probably take him down. We should probably get that guy. I think
kind of like both. I think I think people kind of became desensitized to the fact that there was a dead man on display for 3 years as a warning against, future piracy.
Sure.
It's almost like a Halloween decoration. No offense, but it's kind of like a Halloween decoration. It's like, oh yeah, that guy's on display. He's he's not only a deterrent, but he's a Halloween decoration if we celebrated Halloween in those days. But
right.
And of course people in those days, it was a much more different lifestyle and different culture in those days, because obviously in those days, somebody pissed you off, you just took out your pistol and you shot them, and people would think none of it. How they used to do they used to stand each other back to back and gave them the pistols, and then they had to walk certain amount of paces and then turn and whoever shot first, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was like in Barry Lyndon.
A duel, exactly. So it was like that. So it was definitely a
wilder time.
It's just for example, a lot of people are desensitized when it comes to violence on television. Obviously when you watch a scary movie and you see a monster ripping someone's head off, you don't really react to it because, for one, it's fake. But two, on a subconscious level, you're also desensitized from it. And I'm not saying everybody is. A lot of people will get shocked by the gore and violence in a horror movie. But I'm saying back in those days, I'm sure a lot of people were completely desensitized to the fact that there was a dead guy just on display for 3 years.
Right. Yeah, you just get used to it. I mean, there were children born during that time, you know. They're like, can you imagine that if there's like a 3-year-old, right, who's just like starting to notice stuff that's around in life, and they happen to see this. I mean, I don't know how far out it was in the, you know, on the dock or wherever by the Thames, wherever this thing is. I don't know how visible, you know, but like, you know, it's one of those things that's like if somebody had hoped you hadn't seen it, then, you know, a certain amount of time goes by and it's not there anymore. And it's like, Daddy, did there used to be a dead man hanging up on the dock there by a gibbet? No, of course. You're imagining things. Of course not. Or yes, there was. Don't be a pirate. Or better yet, don't be accused of being a pirate, because it's almost as bad.
Right. Well, that's kind of like, too, like during the Salem witch trials, it's like, yo, don't be accused of being a witch, or they're going to drag you out of your house at night. You're going to be done. You know?
Yeah.
They're going to stick you at the bottom of a pond, and God forbid you float up because you're using your witch-like powers to save your own life. I mean, you know, I'm sure people, I'm sure that back then when he was on display, I'm sure people, I mean, you know, did use it as a teaching tool to be like, hey, listen, you know, when you grow up, you know, get yourself a reputable job, become a blacksmith, or, you know, whatever kind of jobs they had back in those days. But God forbid, whatever you do, don't be a pirate, because you see that bad man right there, you'll be on display just like him. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. So, I hear you. Yeah, you got to find a way of keeping the children on the straight and narrow path, you know?
Right, exactly.
Or, you know, just trying to protect them.
Through fear.
Hey friends, Bill Haywatt here. You know, with the summer months just around the corner, that means nights spent with buddies out under the stars, or sometimes just passed out next to your car. Whatever the occasion, it's always the right night for a pair of Henderson sleepover slacks. Whether you're crashing at a friend's place or getting your carnal fix with a one-night stand, Henderson sleepover slacks are just the ticket to making sure that you get as good a night's sleep as you can, while still waking up refreshed and raring to go. No matter if you're heading back to work or making that walk of shame back home by the harsh but cleansing light of day. Sleepover slacks feature an outer layer that unzips to form a snug sleeping bag with a built-in eye shade so you can catch some extra winks. And there's a removable, disposable inner liner that wicks away moisture and filth and whatever from your skin so you can unpeel it, throw it away, and face the world without needing a shower the next day. The nylon zipper doubles as a removable tooth and hairbrush, and the sleepover slacks double stitching can be plucked out a bit at a time to be used as dental floss, so that you're looking as perky as can be for that big important meeting or facing the spouse. What's more, Henderson sleepover slacks are unisex, designed for both men and women who care to leave the very best impression when it comes to living indiscriminate lifestyles. Originally designed for train conductors, flight attendants, and United States congressmen, Henderson sleepover slacks are available wherever fine bedding and or camping supplies are sold. That's Henderson's, letting you get into our pants since 1849. And now back to the groovy sounds of Succotash.
I do love a good Henderson's pants ad. I don't believe I've ever heard a bad one. Before we continue with my interview with Soundcaster Hunter Block, let me delight you with our second First O Durst for the evening, which is from July 6, 2018. It's called Torches and Pitchforks, in which our intrepid correspondent throws some well-deserved heat the Democrats' way.
Hey guys, Will Durst here with a few choice words about the current state of the Democratic Party. And those words are, it ain't pretty. Those of you with weak stomachs would best be advised to avert your eyes, and please keep all children behind closed doors for the next couple of months. Because watching the Democrats is scarier than finding scorpions in your underwear. If their shenanigans were up on the big screen, it would qualify as a horror movie. Not even sure if the word party should apply here anymore. It certainly doesn't fit in terms of celebration. There's no frolicking or joviality. And if you mean party in terms of a gathering of like-minded individuals, that too leaves quite a bit to be desired. More like a loose collection of misfits who cluster together for the sole purpose of claiming not to like President Donald Trump. And that's about it. They don't stand for anything, not even the national anthem. You can't even accuse Democrats of being afraid of their own shadow because at this point they don't actually cast one. Besides, it's hard to see your shadow when your head's so far up your butt you can tickle your spleen with your elbow. Not only aren't they in the game, they don't even know that one is being played. The Republicans attack with torches and pitchforks, and the Democratic response is to introduce legislation to reform pitchfork safety standards. You should put corks in those, phosphorescent for nighttime visibility. And if you insist on carrying torches, they need to be flame resistant, at least 2 inches long. Should come in for about $12 a piece. I know a guy who can knock them out for $6. For Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast, I'm Will Durst.
You can go to @willdurst.com to reach out to Mr. Durst on Twitter. You can go to his Facebook page. And be sure to visit willdurst.com for all his deets and dates. So I was thinking it would be a good time for you to hear that clip.
Oh, yes.
On Combat Radio.
Okay, here we go.
Hello, you're on with Combat Radio.
Hey, hello.
Hello. Who's this?
This is Hunter Block.
Hunter Block. Okay, let me digress a little bit into who Hunter Block actually is. He has a code name out there known as Zombie Bacterium, but he's one of our avid listeners, and he's actually a descendant of the pirate Captain Kidd. And the reason he's calling is because Hunter has done a tour of duty in a very haunted cemetery back east, and he's here to tell us a little bit. It's actually a cemetery, and I'm not kidding you. It's got a headstone marked zombie.
Yes, it does. It's,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You're the authority, Hunter. Hunter, welcome to the program, man. Glad you're calling. Happy Halloween, by the way.
Oh, thanks. You too. Yeah, actually, the tombstone is the guy's name is Zombie Holstart, believe it or not. He was a child born in 1960 and died in 1973. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any background on him, but he's in there. The actual name of the place is called Rose Hill Cemetery.
Rose Hill, right? That's the name of it. One of the things I want to ask you, Hunter, is there's a headstone there. It's somewhat, it's kind of first of all, in a moment, I'm going to have you give us the history of the place and some of what's happened there. But there is a headstone where if you take a photo of it, your camera battery instantly dies. And it's
yes.
And it happens to everyone.
Yes.
No, I'm not.
Yes.
Peter's looking at me like I'm crazy.
Even Duracell?
Even Duracell. Tell us about the history of the place, Hunter. What better person to advise us than a descendant of Captain Kidd? But give us a history of both the place, and some of the haunted elements there, since you've actually done a paranormal tour of duty in the joint.
Okay. The tombstone that you're referring to is the boy's name is Lester Stillwell. He was 10 years old when he died in 1916. He basically died of a shark attack, which is actually a freak thing since I've never even heard of that up until I started researching this. And his would-be rescuer, he was 24, he died as well. So supposedly when you actually take a picture of this boy's tombstone, your battery just dies.
Yeah. Hey, Hunter, stop right there because I'm going to play the appropriate music. So stand by. Hold on a second here. Let me get this right for us.
Okay.
One of these days I'm going to have to put some time into finding some different source music, but I know where to go, where to make it work.
I thought you were going to play Jaws.
Yeah,
Oh my God, I just got to stop this real quick.
Yeah?
Oh my God, that's like memory lane, like right there. To anyone out there listening to this, before I replay this, this was my first time ever being on not only because obviously it's not a soundcast in the sense of being soundcast. This was a live internet radio show, and still is. It's very awesome. I listen to it every Friday and promote it as much as possible. And plus, we're on the Brigade Radio 1 that's sponsored by Combat Radio, as Tyson will tell you. But this was my first time doing anything like this, and I can tell you right now, I was scared as hell. So, with that being said, let's get back to it. You ready, Tyson?
Sure.
Okay.
You're gonna play Jaws.
Yeah, I do too. I was like, where's the Jaws?
We should get Carl Gottlieb in on this. All right, Hunter, back to you. So, shark attack, cemetery headstone that kills your phone battery when you try to take a photo of it.
Yes. This a shark apparently swam up Mattawan River, and I guess this boy was playing by the river, and he fell into it and fell victim to a shark attack. And he died on the way to the hospital.
In a river?
His rescuer died as well.
It was a shark attack in a river? That's unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fresh water.
It definitely is. Yeah, it's fresh water. So, I mean, that's what the research I've done is that he actually a shark found its way upriver and to this town. The town is called Mattawan. I think I had mentioned that.
Is that long ago?
And he died.
Is it a shark or was it a cover-up? Could have been a cover-up.
They said shark.
Was he swimming in the Amityville Lagoon?
Hold on, don't go there yet. Don't go there.
He was trying to do a great segue there.
Peter was trying to derail us to the Amityville horror segment, which is next.
Kind of energy we need in zombie hookers. That kind of energy right there.
You can't. I'm sorry. You can't derail the Amityville horror, man. Come on. Can't derail it.
Don't worry, you can call back for that segment, Hunter. We can put you on 2 segments. But tell us a little bit. What? Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
No. Go ahead. You can speak.
No, I was going to say I actually visited the house, although I couldn't get inside. I actually visited it.
Wait, you know what's? I'm jealous. You attempted to get inside?
You don't know this guy.
I don't have that kind of I was standing outside the house.
Let me tell
I
you.
didn't want to commit B&E, you know what I mean?
I didn't want to commit B&E. Yeah. Let me tell you about this guy. If this guy pulls on you, this guy goes to the house, I'm sure. He also probably knocked on the door and there's no response. He probably looked in the window and then he probably went around to try to find a cellar entrance. He probably went into the boathouse, probably swam in the lagoon a bit, and then decided to leave.
I had this creepy lady come right to the window and she had this rotary phone with a wire and she's standing right there for 10 minutes staring right at us like
there is no rotary
guardian,
phone in
like
that house.
Scary.
There is no rotary phone in that house.
There's no oxygen around that house. It's a vacuum.
Oh, now see, there you go. Now
I'm creeped out.
This is getting creepy.
How come the star of Paranormal Activity is the one that's all creeped out? Aren't you the one that everyone thinks was in a real paranormal documented?
Yeah, I thought you died.
Right. I know, because it's real.
I hate to let the secret out of the bag, Hunter, but it's just a movie. She got up after eating her hand off and went home that day.
Or she's
man, I was all excited too, you know. Not that you died, I'm sorry, but you know.
I was so excited.
Let him correct that real quick.
Happy Halloween.
He was looking at that as real paranormal
Happy Halloween to you too.
Hunter, real quick, back to Rose Hill.
Okay.
Give us a couple.
Other.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, do you see how different I was in those days doing this sort of thing to how I am now doing this sort of thing?
Are you asking me or the audience at large?
Well, I'm asking you, sir, because you do this with me each and every week just about. So, I mean, but you can hear the difference, though, in my level of confidence as to back then to as now, because back then, dude, I'm really glad that, I wasn't like facing a large crowd because I don't think I'd be able to have done that. Now I could, now I don't care, but
right.
It's just, this is like a wonderful, blast of the past for me.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, I thought you sounded pretty confident back then. So, I mean, I understand if you were nervous, but he didn't sound nervous to me. I mean, he didn't sound any more nervous than anybody else who's ever called in on a radio show. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, or anybody else who'd never called in on a radio show before or anything. You just sounded kind of like you just did what you. I mean, you certainly sounded at least the same confidence level as me, and I was always trying to just flying by the seat of my pants when I was appearing on there. So, I thought it went
absolutely.
really well.
No.
First of all, they say that it's home to some Civil War casualties. Other people reported hearing strange noises, strange voices, a mist, the usual orb in the photographs, and vortexes, which I'm actually disappointed because I didn't get to see one yet.
A vortex. Explain exactly to a guy who, I don't know, is not into vortexes, what a vortex is. What exactly is a vortex when you say that? Define vortex, Hunter.
Well, I guess a vortex, because I'm a little, I guess a vortex would be like a gateway to another dimension.
Oh, you're kidding. So it's like a time-space continuum, like a 1.21 gigawatts Doc Brown kind of deal?
Wow.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Yeah,
now, who doesn't know shit about vortexes now? All right. So anyway, go back to. I'm sorry. So there's been claims that there's vortexes there. There's Civil War dead.
Right.
And there's some claims of
That's
vortex.
right.
There's this mysterious shark attack, cat fatality there. And there's also the headstone marked zombie. Very interesting.
Yes.
Let me ask you something on the
here's
zombie.
something you might find even.
On the,
Huh?
Tom Benerino's got a question
I got
for
a
you.
question for you. On the zombie name, is that actually? Did anyone research? Is that like a name that was used at that period? Is it? Because it's sort of like you can make an issue out of anything. Was zombie a nickname? Was it a name? Did anyone research that as opposed to just saying zombie? Oh, he must be a zombie. Is there any thought put into that being a hot button issue, being called zombie?
Well, I actually did try to research it. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything on it. But the Mattawan Historical Society does give guided tours and adds ghost stories into it. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure they'll probably have something on that.
Right.
As to where I was unfortunately wasn't able to find anything on it at all, other than the name Zombie, which is actually on the tombstone. So maybe it was like the boy's nickname or something like that, or maybe the parents were just beast.
Typically, you wouldn't put. I mean, I guess if you have sort of that sense of humor, you'd go that way. But typically, you wouldn't put a nickname on.
Well, it was 1960, right?
People always have a lot of humor going on when they're buried.
Yeah, well, he was born in 1960, and he died in 1973. So maybe they just have like really dark humor.
So 1960, maybe they were experimenting with acid or something. Parents.
Maybe. Hey, it's New Jersey, man. Anything can happen out here.
I
have
how
a question.
He speaks for the Tourist Bureau of New Jersey, by the way. Go ahead, Ashley.
If
you
you
have a question?
take a picture with your iPhone, does that battery die too? Because maybe there's something going on with my iPhone.
Maybe
Battery's always dying.
Well, even though the iPhone is wicked awesome, I have one myself, but I'm pretty sure the rules still apply to iPhones too.
But does it apply to the Galaxy 3?
Is that covered under warranty? Is that covered under warranty with the iPhone 5? I just want to know.
I don't know, but unless Steve Jobs up there in heaven's like telling this boy not to drain people's iPhone batteries, I'm pretty sure it's going to get drained.
Hey, what is the scariest thing you have heard or witnessed in this cemetery?
When I was here at night, I witnessed this. I felt a sense of being watched constantly. Like no matter where I went in this place, it just felt like there was eyes on me. You know, and like I just couldn't wait, like just to like not be there at night. You know.
Did you
be
pull
here at night or whatever?
Did you pull like a Linus and sit there all night? Did you like do an investigation and you were in the cemetery all night doing
Linus?
You know.
Oh yeah, this place is huge. Yes, I did. I mean, this place is hilly, lots of hills, lots of like winding roads. I mean, it just goes on and on. They have mausoleums that date back to like 300 years. So I'm like really fascinated with this place. I mean, I can go there again and again. It doesn't matter if it's Halloween, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Is he wearing a garlic necklace?
Yes. Peter's asking you if you're wearing a garlic defense necklace in case zombies, or not zombies, vampires, right?
Something. I don't know. Some
Garlic wards away everybody.
No, I didn't have garlic, but I did hear about a bunch of ghost tracking moms. One of them in particular is from Keyport, which is a town over from where I live, and she actually drove her minivan in there at night. And it's not a good idea to drive in here at night. You know what I'm saying? You should park and walk in case,
Well, anyone who
people start
watched
asking questions.
anyone who ever watched Scooby-Doo knows you always park the van and then you go in. You never drive.
Did you just say ghost hunting moms?
She drove in the entrance, which you actually can do here during the day. She drove in, and she left the headlights on, which is stupid. But I guess she wanted to light her and her little ghost group or whatever, and they all got out, and supposedly the lights just cut off by themselves for no apparent reason.
Interesting.
I like the ghost hunting moms. That has to be in the zombie hookers somehow.
That's so awesome. I want to show.
Zombie Hookers,
moms.
by the way. Zombie Hookers. Perfect title for a sequel. Laid to Rest.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. Zombie Hookers 2, Laid to Rest. I like it. See, as soon as Zombie Hookers
Throwing
went
that out there.
Hunter was immediately on that. As he saw the light that I saw, which is Hit Machine.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Definitely Hit Machine.
Zombie Hookers, and especially the sense we were doing it, like we were talking, Peter, about doing it like in a blaxploitation 70s style. With like
that would be wicked awesome.
With awesome zombie hookers, not just zombie crack hookers, but like real fun zombie hookers.
Blackula cameo.
Yeah. Yes, Blackula cameo. Oh man.
And the ghost
Can we get like a black Cadillac convertible, like like the old '60s style ones?
Oh, of course, that's doable. You know, something
In
tells
zombie
me
hookers?
my old friend who I miss very much, Isaac Hayes, may he rest in peace, he'd be very proud of this project.
Yeah.
Truck Turner would be very proud of a Zombie Hookers project, gaining a strange force of momentum in the combat radio episodes where we've talked about it. It's like, I'm now asked about this online more than anything else. Like, what's up with Zombie Hookers?
I think you need a scene at Cafe Jalisco.
I think so.
What about pimps? Are we having pimps in this movie as well?
Are we having who in it?
Pimps?
Pimps.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
you gotta have
yeah,
pimps
Peter Shakota's our
in a
pimp.
hooker movie.
Yeah, Peter's playing our pimp right here.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I was thinking like Billy D. Williams.
Well, that's
For
doable.
some reason.
You know, Billy D. Williams will tell you that one of his favorite interviews ever was this show, so I think that's doable.
Corey
Billy
D.
D. Williams.
Yeah, his
Corey
son.
D. Williams, his son.
Corey D. Williams.
You know who I also knew quite well, who used to love to meet at Dupar's for lunch, was Rudy Ray Moore, but he's also passed away. He would have been a cinch. I could have put the lead pipe lock on that thing with a phone call.
I think we should get real pimps. Real pimps.
That's what we want, real pimps on the set.
I mean, if you're gonna get real hoes at the party tonight.
Yeah, real pimps.
No, that's not true. Look at Peter's quickly trying to swipe this party under the rug.
Oh, it's just
Peter's having a fit in the corner. All right, so Hunter, Rose Hill, it's
Yes, sir.
there is a historical society that does a ghost walk if people are interested, but you yourself, if people are interested, could probably be contacted for a more unofficial yet more interesting ghost walk, I'd imagine.
They certainly can.
What's the name of your paranormal research outfit? Or is it
Just
the Hunter Blocker
Zombie
Regulars,
Bacterium.
or what is it?
Yeah. Zombie Bacterium.
Zombie Bacterium. You know, when in doubt this Halloween, if you're looking for something to do in the Long Island area, I highly recommend you take a ghost walk hosted by our friend Zombie Bacterium. Combat Radio approves this message. There you go. Hunter, nice having you on the program, buddy. Anything in closing?
Thank you for having me.
All right, buddy. We'll talk again. Nice job, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
Rose Hill.
Interesting.
Headstone Mark Zombie, and that was the phenomenon that everyone talked about. Some other people in the area said the same thing. You cannot take whether it's a magnetic anomaly, an electronic anomaly, or whatever it is, you cannot take a picture of this headstone. Your battery, your phone is dead.
That was definitely an interesting day, my friend.
Yeah, so tell us, Hunter.
Yeah.
Anybody ever end up contacting you to go on a zombie walk or a paranormal tour?
No, unfortunately, I was very disappointed. I was like really excited. I was hoping that somebody would have reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, let's do it up." But you know, like in those days too, I wasn't really, I guess, as active on social media as I am now. You know.
Sure, yeah.
And
well, me either.
I mean, I'm sure now. I mean, I'm sure somebody in the state of New Jersey has to listen to Succotash or Antisocial Show. So I'm pretty sure now that if I were to get something together, I'm pretty sure now like somebody would jump all over that. But yeah, no, unfortunately, nobody jumped on that in those days. That's cool though.
Yeah, that's too bad though. Well, but I guess there's still time. So you've got over 50 episodes of your own podcast now, or your own soundcast. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so how does it feel having come all this way? What does that feel like having done this now? Did you ever see this as being a thing? I know that's more than one question, but you get the idea of what I'm asking.
Well, I want to say going back prior to like to when I was doing Strange Times, like a couple episodes of that.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely back in those days, like I didn't see it as like myself doing it. I knew that it was possible, but I wasn't sure how to do it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So then, of course, when I got the idea, the awesome idea I'd be like, hey, man, I was on Strange Times a few times. I was on Combat Radio. I obviously share the shit out of shows that I like, Succotash including. I'm like, I could do this. And so I spent 6 months learning how to do a soundcast. And I have to, like, when we finally got to the moment, like when we finally launched, it was like super, super exciting. And even like now, it's always like it's always a good feeling. It's like an awesome feeling to be able to sit there and create something and get it out there. So, and each and every episode. It's always something new and exciting because even I never know what we're going to talk about when we're doing an episode, except for like here and there when we say, hey, let's talk about this or let's mention that. But there's no script to it. And that's the fun part, because when you get on the mic and start talking, you never know where the conversation is going to go. So, and of course, when it's all put together and you send it to me to listen to, it's like, wow, man, it's like an exciting thing to not be able to just listen to a soundcast, but to listen to your own soundcast, which is truly amazing.
Hear, hear. Well, it's been a great ride this last, I guess, year and a half. In 6 days and 3 months, it will be 2 years since the first show debuted. Now,
wow, really?
Yeah,
2 years.
Yep, this will be because the first episode was out on October 18th, 2016. Now, of course, we recorded it earlier than October 18th, but it ended up being on the air over there at my SoundCloud, which now you can find by going to www.tysonsaner.com. You can find all my links. I can't
even believe it's been 2 years, almost. Has it been 2 years or almost 2 years?
It'll be 2 years in 3 months and 6 days.
That is incredible, man. The fact that our show, like something that we created, has been going strong for like 2 years. I mean, that goes to show you how like fast time goes, because I honestly never even kept track of like how many years we've been doing this, and like now you got to look at it and be like, wow, yeah, I've been a soundcaster for almost 2 years now, apparently, in 3 months.
Yeah,
it's truly an amazing thing. You know what I mean?
With some degree of regularity, which is like regularly, some degree of regularity. No, I think that's right. I think that's the right way. Well, you know me, yeah. I'm a stickler about words.
Nothing wrong with that, because I truly appreciate people that when they drop words, I truly appreciate the fact that they're dropping words and they know what those words mean, because they're obviously using them, as opposed to like people dropping words and have no idea what the hell it even means at all.
Sure.
So that's just me, though.
I would prefer if the term soundcast is to get any movement. I mean, not saying it hasn't had movement, but to really get it in there, I'd like a little more of people, bluffing, where they just start using the word even though they're not sure what it means, and then there'll be people going, okay, now I thought you meant podcast, but I wasn't sure why you said it. It's kind of nice when people ask.
For
clarification.
I think the word soundcast is. I mean, think about it. Anything that's anything in life evolves and becomes better, right? So it was originally called a podcast. Okay, well, we used the term podcast for a lot of years, and people are still stuck on the word podcast, but it's nice to actually evolve and call it something else, because obviously when you think of podcasting, and I don't really want to like talk bad or ill about iTunes. I love iTunes. We're on iTunes. But it's still like the big old elephant in the room. It's like you talk about a podcast. Well, that's probably the only medium where it exists is on iTunes. And you have like your little, what do they call them things? An iPod, which is dead technology. They don't even make iPods anymore. So it's nice to get away from that. And it just sounds bigger, better, more professional when you say, hey, I'm a soundcaster, That's just my opinion.
Okay. That's cool. You know what's really amazing also? I forgot.
What's that?
I mean, I agree with all you're saying, what you're saying, and I'm not trying to say that what I've got to point out is more amazing than what you just said. I'm not trying to outdo you, but I'm trying to add to something, and I can't believe I forgot to send you this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as long. It's just like it's less than a minute. But at the beginning of that episode of Combat Radio, that day when you and I were on the air for the first time, almost together, I had been on the show before.
Yep.
And you were coming on for the first time, but we were on the same episode. This is the most bizarre thing. Not really bizarre, but check this out.
Okay.
Happy Halloween. It's time for another episode of Combat Radio, and I want to say a quick thank you to the Succotash Show, a rather legendary form of internet entertainment who's been featuring a lot of Combat Radio and some clips, some of our work with Billy D. Williams and Dean Haglund of the X-Files and some others. They've been giving us a lot of support and been featuring us on Succotash.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
this was This was the same episode that I was on, correct?
Yes.
Or a different episode?
It was the episode that you were on that we just listened to the clip from, and then I was on later talking about the Wolfman. Like right at the beginning of the show, he mentioned Succotash, which at that time was hosted by Marc Hershon.
How awesome is that?
It is such a strange confluence of events, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think right there, dude, honestly. I mean, I think like you and I, you know, being on combat radio, them mentioning Succotash in a weird sort of way, like in a strange sense, it's pretty cool because it all led us to like it led us to this point right here in time, I think.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And also it's Halloween, and we've contributed to the Halloween album. We have a Halloween project that we did together.
Oh, yes. Because you know you were doing something for Halloween on Combat Radio. I was doing something for Halloween on Combat Radio. A few years after that, I actually went to Sleepy Hollow Cemetery where I did a live episode for Combat Radio a couple of years after that.
A couple of years that I'll have to see if I can find that.
Yeah, I think it was like was it? No, I'm sorry to everyone out there. I lied. It was a year. It was a year later. Sorry. So it was the following. Was it the following Halloween? Yeah. No. Was it?
I don't know. I can check.
I honestly don't. Yeah. Check because I think it was either like a year or two later. I'm not sure though. I'm not 100% positive.
Let's see here.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So October 11th, 2013. Episode's called "The Legion of Doom." I was wondering if you were on future episodes because you were on 2, and then it was a while before you were on again. But you were on with Sally Saffioti, who was from Watchmen, Resident Evil, Star Wars. Tracy Takes On, and as it says in the
that is so friggin' cool.
40,000 interesting credits, and it says Aaron Fitzgerald, of course, you from Ed and Eddie, Beach Monster High. Hamilcar Crosby, one of our partners at Kung Fu Movie Madness. Richard Epcar of Ghost in the Shell, Robotech, and Batman. His wife Ellen Stern Epcar from Milk and Honey and Robotech. These are the credits that are being listed. Tom Vittorino is still back, or perhaps I'm not sure what at this point, but it's a whole year later.
Not have left.
Practically a whole year later, almost a whole year later. It's manager of the Cult, The Doors, Fuel, etc. is his credit. Casey Ryan of the Cutting Room Floor podcast, which I have heard a couple of times. It's been a while. Calls in, and then Hunter Block, and then it says who runs the Combat Radio Firebase New Jersey page.
And I still actually that page went to the wayside, and now I run the Combat New Jersey Strike Team page.
Okay, and it says calls in with a Halloween report from Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, sir.
And if you want to listen to that, folks, you can go to www.latalkradio.com/content/combat-radio.
Yes, a lot of those things in those days just led us to what we're doing like right now, which is pretty cool, I think.
It's interesting how time does that, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. Because like I said, you know, we did the Halloween album Part 3 last year, and now we're working on Part 4, if I may say that. Working on our own track again. So,
sure.
So it's been a pretty fun ride, and I hope the ride goes for a real long time because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring, bro.
That's very true, and I hope it goes as long as it can as well. So thank you for
absolutely.
Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. It was a fun time, dude. And thank you for finding that audio clip because it was really fun reliving that moment in time. That was really cool.
Oh, no problem. And thank you for kicking my ass into doing a podcast because, you know, you really I was in a pretty depressive state during that period of time. And I think it's given me something really fun to look forward to putting together the show every couple of weeks as it is, even when it was every week, or just, you know, having something to work on. And I think it helped me work on other things basically, and increase my work output. So I appreciate that a great deal.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
There's a quick story behind that. If you have time.
Sure.
Okay, so the night that I decided to do and I'll keep this as brief as possible. The night that I decided to do a podcast or soundcast, I was sitting right in this room where I'm sitting right now, where I do every episode of Antisocial Show, and I was talking to a person who were, I'm not going to bring up, but I was talking to a person and we were having a conversation and I'm like, hey man, a girl obviously, but I was like, hey man, we should do a podcast. Like, cause the kind of conversations that we were having, I'm like, we should just do a soundcast. I've been thinking about doing one for a while now. Also, and she got interested, and I'm like, but I want to bring my good buddy Tyson on because I think it would be awesome having 3 people as opposed to 2. But I think now that I look back on it, I'm glad it was just like you and I because of the dynamic and the way the show went, like the chemistry. You just can't replicate that. You know what I mean? So, but that was my line of thinking back in those days, anyway. So, but. I definitely had you in mind immediately when I decided to actually do a soundcast. So thank you for being a part of it, bro, because it is fun and it's something that I look forward to each and every week because it definitely is a way to escape my head for a little while, if that makes sense. Kind of like get away from reality because when we're doing this, it's like I'm in the zone, dude. And like when I'm in the zone, we start talking about everything and anything. And it's just like – before I know it, like a couple hours have passed, and then we get back into reality. I'm like, wow, man. So it's kind of like my drug of choice, so to speak.
I like that.
So
soundcasting, your drug of choice.
Me too. That's right, my drug of choice.
So, well, thank you again, Hunter, for doing the show, and
thank you very much for having me.
Anything you wanted to say in closing to the? Do you have any plugs? Are you going to be appearing anywhere, doing stand up or anything? Are you going to any place you're going to be that you? It's kind of a joke. I don't know if you could because it'd be a couple weeks before this comes out, and I don't know that you'd want to. You're planning on doing a meet and greet in the future?
I wish. If I would be doing a meet and greet in the future, obviously I would want the meet and greet to be with you, and I would be in California.
Oh.
And at some point in time, I was even thinking of doing like a live antisocial show somehow. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean later on in the future, obviously, but no. If anybody out there that's listening to this right now, if you want to. Jump over to Antisocial Show and listen to an episode or 2 of Tyson and myself. Please feel free to do so. You can contact me at Zombie Bacterium on Twitter or Antisocial Show 1 also on Twitter or the Antisocial Show on Facebook. We're all over social media. Come check us out. If you want to be a guest, we love guests on the Antisocial Show, don't we, Tyson?
We do.
So
now, is it the Antisocial Show on Facebook or is it just Antisocial Show on Facebook?
It's Antisocial Show on Facebook.
Okay, just checking. Because that "the" slips in there.
Yep. Yeah, just Antisocial Show on Facebook. I mean, yeah, it's funny. I got to thinking about that.
Yeah.
Because there's no "the" in the show, but yet we always call it the Antisocial Show. We never just say. We very rarely do we ever say Antisocial Show.
I try not to.
Antisocial Show.
I try very, very.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying not to myself.
But I always try to. I would say I always correct people. I don't always correct people when they say it wrongly because it's I don't know. It feels a little bit too much. It feels a little bit too. I'm sure
too much to correct them on.
Yeah, it's like actually it's just Antisocial Show, but it is just anti. It's 3 words, and not one of them is the.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, there's no the. Get the out. We couldn't call it the anti-show or the anti-show, so we just say it's Anti-Social Show.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. I always have a good time recording with Hunter when we record for Antisocial Show, and I'd like to thank him again here for being my guest on this episode of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast. If there's one bit of info I've absorbed from listening to so many different soundcasts over the years, it's a particular similarity of nearly everyone who commits their voices to digital posterity in MP3 format. And that similarity is how, at the beginning of what will become the life of a soundcast, so many of its creators and contributors have absolutely no idea how a show is going to evolve or how long they will continue to make and post episodes. I'm not talking about radio personalities who archive their shows. I'm talking about people who just decide to add their voices to the ever-growing pool of audio personalities who you can choose to spend part of your day with. Who knows what the future brings? Sasquatch, that's who. But they're moody and reclusive, so it's difficult to gather their predictions with any degree of regularity. Anyway, until next time, I bid you a fond gisposta, and if I could trouble you to do so, I'd like to gently implore you to please pass the succotash.
You've been listening to Succotash Chat, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast with your host, Tyson Sainer. Brought to you by Henderson's Pants and...
Imagine your company's name right here.
Find us on the web at succotashshow.com, on iTunes, on Stitcher Smart Radio, on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on Dunder, on Blitzen, on iHeartRadio, and on a laughable app. You can hear us streaming and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Succotash Show. Email us at TysonSainer@succotashshow.com. Or call into the Succotash hotline at our toll call number, 818-921-7212.
That number again is 818-921-7212.
You can also upload clips from your favorite comedy soundcasts directly to us by using our direct upload link at hightail.com/u/Succotash. Production of Succotash is overseen by Joe Paulino through the auspices of Studio P Sausalito, hosted by Tyson Sainer. Our executive producer is Marc Hershon. Our musical director is Scott Carvey. Our booth assistant is Kenny Durges. Until next time, I'm your loyal booth announcer, Bill Haywatt, reminding you to please pass the Succotash. Goodbye.